Okay, so hello and welcome to Front Left. I am your host, Boozy. A bit frazzled right now because I may have lost my headphones somewhere. But I have a lovely guest with me in the studio today.
Yo, what's up?
So yeah, I want to get into it. I've wrote up a little intro just to get things started, and I think we should get into it. Sounds good?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so my guest today is a musician from Brooklyn named OTTO Benson. OTTO Benson, or just Otto as he's more likely known, has released multiple singles, an EP, and an album on the boundary-pushing label Please Make It Ruin. Otto has also released music as Memo Boy, a high school-era pseudonym of his, including 2 EPs and a massive, incredible 33-song compilation. You may find him with earplugs sorry, terrible day for me. You can find him standing with earplugs, standing smack in the front of a speaker, disassociating. Otto will be DJing 8 Ball's recurring party at Bossa Nova, Try Again Later, on December 23rd. You should all come out to that. Otto, it's a pleasure to have you on. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so I know we started chatting a bit before, but how are you doing? How you been?
Yeah, I've been good. A little frazzled as well. Just very kind of busy doing work. Lots of odd jobs, funny situations. But it's all good. Yeah, good stuff.
Any odd jobs that are worth mentioning, or they're just odd?
I started working for Landscape, which is I don't know, like I'm just doing small. I'm like an intern or something. Which is Landscape's a instrument company run by this guy named Eric Pitra. I think that's how you pronounce his last name, but amazing instruments, very kind of, I don't know, more on the, I don't know how to really do them justice over, just describing them, but definitely check out Landscape. Landscape.fm is his Instagram.
What kind of instruments?
They make a manual cassette player.
Oh.
And they also make a device called the stereo field, which is like a kind of noise generator, which uses like capacitive touch. It's all beautiful stuff, really beautifully designed. And yeah, it's just been a dream to get this opportunity to work with them.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's just really awesome.
Thank you.
I mean, that's definitely stuff that's probably a bit over my head, because I less so know about cassettes. But is that something that you would use in your own music, or something you've been interested in, or is it just it's a cool thing to get your hands on or get working in?
What, cassettes or
specifically like noise cassettes or a manual cassette player?
Well, actually, a lot of the Memo Boy stuff I would make and then like dub onto cassettes. So it's been kind of in my workflow in weird ways since I started making music. I've like, I don't know, always kind of really appreciated the kind of bizarre, maybe you can like degrade kind of the pitch of a cassette if you fuck with it. Sorry, can I curse?
You can curse. Yeah,
okay,
you're good.
Sorry.
You're good.
But yeah, there's a lot of like weird kind of. It's very popular to like digitally emulate tape nowadays. But on cassette, there's also a lot of just a physical cassette. You can do a lot of weird things that. I don't know. Yeah, Eric's instrument really kind of takes it to its limit, like makes it this really weird. You can almost scratch it like vinyl, like as if you're scratching like a vinyl record and stuff. It's
really interesting to me that I guess there's also a nostalgia for like cassettes as a physical media.
Yeah, definitely.
Not that they somehow would have any less, value or virtue in some way. Mm-hmm. But it's just interesting to me that right, everyone thinks of vinyl as having that sense, but recently, right, cassettes are coming on pretty strong.
Oh,
either of bands giving out cassettes or making cassettes instead of CDs, or people trying to use cassettes in exactly the way you've described, or even faking the sound of a cassette.
Yeah, it's definitely becoming more and more kind of romanticized.
Yeah,
I guess.
definitely. And so, I guess in that vein, going back a little bit, like, what are your first memories of making music?
Oh, I don't
Or
know.
first memories of
Probably
music generally, I think is a better way.
music.
To put it. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I was kind of I remember listening to like that song "Clocks" by Coldplay in the car.
Great
and
song.
like I was so moved by that song when I was like, I don't know, 5, or I don't know how old I was, but I think my mom was playing it. But yeah, I never really like had I never really identified like my favorite music or anything until a little later on, maybe when I was like 7 or 8. And then I started to get really into like punk rock music. And also my dad had a Kraftwerk CD that he would play a lot, and that was my introduction to like electronic music, which initially I was really disturbed by it. I like, there's like that song called "The Model," which I had a really kind of, I don't know, I just thought it was such a like twisted song, and I kind of made up this. I don't think this is what the song's actually about, but I thought it was about this. I thought it was about a robot that this like guy makes that is like a supermodel kind of robot, and it becomes like really, he just kind of like lets it free into the world of models and celebrities, and it ends up becoming like so famous and just like forgets all about him, and then he like meets the model again, and it just like, he's the only one who knows that this like celebrity is a robot who's like just completely infiltrated that world, and
I mean, I haven't heard the song.
I really like, that was like my head just going crazy when I was a kid.
So I don't know how close or how much is being added or how much that seems to make sense.
Yeah. I think it's about like manic. No. I think it's about. I forgot. I honestly haven't listened to that song in many years, but I just remember listening to it, and I after like a few listens, it was my favorite song at first, and then I was like listening to the lyrics, and I was like, I can't deal with this. It's like
crazy.
So intense, and then I revisited it, and now, like years later, and definitely became a big part of my life.
And so skipping forward a bit, when did you start like making music?
Probably after, it was just kind of I would just kind of mess around on GarageBand after I started playing guitar when I was 10, I think. And it just sort of, it was a very like natural transition to just start recording. I was playing guitar, and then I was like, oh, this sounds cool, I should probably record it. And then I'd record it into, record like a riff into GarageBand or something, and then those developed into weird, songs and other compositions and little instrumentals. And I wasn't really that serious about it and the actual recording process until high school. I was like very interested in just like refining my technical understanding, I guess.
What really what changed? You just had more of a desire for it?
I got access to Ableton. I got like an interface, like one of there's those little Focusrite interfaces, which came with a copy of Ableton Live Lite, and that kind of that was my entry into really just making like a full production at home. prior to that, I wasn't really. I mean, I was making weird. They're very experimental, kind of. Not. I wasn't really expecting anything to be really listenable in a. I don't know, like a certain level of quality. I wasn't expecting a certain level of quality with my GarageBand recordings, and then Ableton kind of opened my eyes to like how far I could go with just making stuff on my own.
And so, and that's, I guess, how, like, I guess everything you made, right, as Memo Boy, right, became a thing.
Yeah. And that was kind of, that was just basically my username on SoundCloud, where I was just sort of posting, whatever, just like weird stuff that I felt like posting to share with friends, not really expecting much. And a lot of the songs that have, I don't know, a lot of them have gone viral on like TikTok or SoundCloud itself. They kind of blew up a little bit, and that was all just very. I've just been sort of still processing that to this day a little bit.
And that's a ton to process.
Yeah. It's really, it's such a weird kind of, I don't know. It's a very weird feeling.
Yeah, that someone enjoys your art, or that someone and an algorithm enjoys your art, right?
Yeah. I don't know. It's also weird when I never really felt that satisfied with any of that music. I thought it wasn't really that. It was just kind of throwaway stuff a little bit to begin with, and then for it to just sort of explode on its own, and for people to kind of recontextualize it in all these weird kind of, I don't know, just very, very interesting ways that I never would have ever imagined.
Do you know any of those contexts that it's been applied to that you would have never considered?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you look on Spotify, all the user-made playlists, there's a very kind of clear, cohesive sort of aesthetic. That's a lot of it's drawn from like kids on TikTok, I think. I don't know. There's a lot of like anime pictures, a lot of other kind of similar indie songs that, I don't know, they all kind of have this like dark sound that it really kind of, I don't know, just picked up on by accident a little bit. I don't know, maybe, just weird pockets. It's it's hard to put a pin on it.
Yeah, well, I guess you never know how someone's gonna take your music and where it's gonna go, right?
Oh, totally, yeah.
And so I guess, right, the music, a lot of the music you make is electronic, but not exactly in a traditional club sense. And so, how did you bridge that gap or make that leap into then DJing and I guess finding an interest in that side of electronic music?
Well, I should probably preface this by I'm not really I'm still kind of a DJ in training or something. I don't know.
I heard you the other day. You sounded pretty good.
Thank you. I'm still figuring out a lot. I haven't really had access to CDJs and stuff for very long, so I'm still kind of getting used to just the technique that is more standard, I guess. But I think my first, definitely I don't know. I'm not really sure how to, there isn't like a start point with my relationship with making electronic music, but and my appreciation for it. But I'd say it kind of developed out of me just making music with drum machines and thinking about kind of the technical limitations of drum machines and synthesizers, and just sort of trying to make sense of what I was doing and what tools existed and what sounds I wanted to make and what other music kind of appealed to me. And somewhere, it just sort of slowly developed where I would find weird YouTube videos of these old techno heads making acid music in their basement, and slowly kind of learned more and more about, I don't know, yeah, kind of, I had a very like internet centric introduction to dance music, to just club culture and electronic music. Yeah, I've always been, yeah, I don't know, guided by the internet
Mm-hmm.
in some way.
Is that changing a little bit now that
Oh,
you're
definitely,
back
yeah.
home more and you just have the opportunity to see more things in person?
Yeah, I also, yeah, so I turned 21 during the pandemic. And then this summer was my first time being back since I graduated school, and I've been going to, yeah, clubs and stuff, which has been a very new experience for me. But an incredible one. Like I'm just very, just so happy to be able to, yeah, experience a lot of the sound systems and stuff that are in the
Mm.
city. Um,
Has that given you any, I guess, influence for music you want to make, or is that
oh,
kind of a different
definitely.
thing?
Yeah. It's made me very self-conscious of my the way I mix bass, and yeah, I was yeah, really my worldview was all centered around, with in terms of audio, was all centered around headphone listening, um, prior to really experiencing any club sound systems. I had, yeah, I had a pair of like Grado headphones, and then I would use Apple earbuds, and those are my only reference, whatever, yeah, like my only kind of point of reference. But now, having experienced kind of, yeah, the full capability of like a really good club sound system, it just really kind of, I don't know, it's such a rich world making things work in that context. There's so
Mm.
much to
Yeah.
be, I don't know, innovated.
Well, I guess there's more. I guess there's almost more to work with in a sense.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but
it's a different way of listening entirely,
yeah.
in my opinion. Like it's much more textural.
Mm.
It's much more based on, yeah, just sort of uh, the quality of the sound, which isn't something I was particularly concerned with when I was making a lot of my, yeah, earlier kind of music. Um, I don't know.
Is there a particular club in New York that really blew you away?
Um, I mean, nowadays is really amazing. I heard the outdoor sound system. That was like the first really good one that I
Yeah,
heard
their outdoor
this summer.
their outdoor one I think also has the advantage of just in being an outdoor system
Yeah,
that you don't have any like the issues of the confines of being in a room and like sounds that can reverberate or
totally.
bad
Yeah,
frequencies or because I
yeah.
think almost like their outdoor one I think sounds better than their indoor one almost. I think it does actually.
Yeah, I've yet to like do some kind of A/B test, but it really, yeah, it blew me away.
I remember hearing a record on it, the first party they had when things reopened, and the record blew me away.
Yeah.
It was Samurai by Jazztronic. I don't know if you know that song. I didn't
No.
know it until I heard it. I Shazammed it. Muscle Cars played it.
Sick.
But I just remember hearing it on that system,
Yeah, yeah.
and I was just like, God damn. And sometimes even I think that system has the advantage of even if a DJ is not always playing what you want, you're like, but it sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Like they weren't playing. I remember I've heard DJs they're not playing things as danceable. Sorry, I'm going this tangent as I
No,
wanted.
don't worry.
But then I'm like, or I heard like they're playing kind of like a slower Larry Heard track, and I was like, but it sounds great.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it almost kind of invites, I think, DJs maybe to experiment with tracks that aren't super danceable and just are really incredible
Yeah,
soundscapes
definitely,
that throw people into this other,
absolutely.
they're like, whoa, I don't know what's going on, but it sounds great.
So you mentioned drum machines. Are there any other pieces of hardware that are particularly interesting to you, or ones that you really like working with?
It's funny because I don't have a ton of hardware of my own, because I've been a little bit like nomadic with being a
Mhm.
student. It was hard for me to really like start accumulating thing, and also
Right.
it's an expensive and kind of uh, not exactly. I don't know. I think I really liked um, the relationship I have with my laptop. I think just sort of the most accessible digital systems that we have in our lives, like phones and
Mhm.
laptops and stuff, aren't given enough credit as music
Totally.
making tools,
Mhm.
or kind of scolded.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, a lot of what I do is if I am using or pulling from a vintage drum machine, I'll usually use samples um, from one which I either buy or find on the internet on weird forums or record myself when I can,
Cool.
if I have access to something.
That's really cool. How do you define, I guess, your style as a DJ and a producer?
Hmm.
I
I
guess
think
probably producer or musician is probably maybe a bit more apt if you consider yourself a new DJ, but still, there's probably still a style somewhere in there or waiting to come out.
um, I don't know. It's really hard because it's not even like I'm not really thinking about. I don't know. It's kind of corny, but I'm not really thinking about style when I make a lot of music. It's just sort of like a
Hmm.
very fluid experience of just, oh, what do I want to make, you know,
And then it just
and
comes
then it
out.
just sort of comes out.
Yeah.
And I've also, I think maybe I've been doing it for long enough where I just have, in my opinion, covered so many different personal little styles and stuff that or genres
Mm.
that I don't know. But I do know a lot of people label me with the IDM kind of
Interesting.
subgenre, which
Interesting.
kind of, I don't know, it's flattering maybe, but I don't like that, uh, I think it was intended as a joke to call things, are you familiar with,
I am familiar with
um,
IDM, yeah. I
to
know a
call
lot of people
something,
who make IDM don't like the name IDM.
yeah,
Um,
I really despise that name. And I think it wasn't intended to be like, uh, I don't know. It's just very it creates this um, narrative that I don't agree with. That it's like what just calling it intelligent is not.
so you take issue? Do you take
Uh,
issue with the comparison to, or just with the name IDM? Because do you think
with
your
the
music?
name,
Okay, fair.
I like a lot of that music has really it inspired me a lot, and I
Uh huh.
listened to it on
Yeah.
a regular basis, and um, but I just don't really like. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, mostly the name itself
Fair enough.
is
Yeah.
I
I
think
think I don't.
brain dance is like the most apt,
Mm,
but that's also a little, I don't know. Everything's a little funny. I don't like genres in general
yeah.
too. I don't like labeling things.
And I don't know if it was Aphex Twin who said he really hated it.
Hmm.
And was like, "What's
I think
intelligent about it?"
everyone hates it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
it's when
everyone's like, "Guys, what's intelligent about it?"
if anything, it's more kind of silly and sometimes idiotic.
Yeah. Yeah. But do you think the comparison, at least in terms of the style, like what is known as IDM, get rid of ignoring the intelligent name? Do you think that's an apt comparison to your music?
From everything I've put out probably.
Fair.
Um,
Um, I do have to ask though, because when I asked you before the show, you did mention pudding style,
oh yeah.
and I had no idea what that meant. I had to ask more about that.
Well, yeah, that's I don't know. It just kind of. So I intend on. I'm kind of getting together a band. I have a lot of pressure to play live,
Mm-hmm.
which is weird for me because I've only really been like an internet like persona, um, but I am sort of figuring out some kind of band and finding people that I gel with in sort of longer term collaborative settings. And I intend on, or this band, it's called the Pudding Club.
Okay.
Or you could also call it a club, not a band, as opposed to a band. Because I want it to be kind of, I don't know, I treat music as, it's very multidisciplinary for me. I kind of have more of a background in listening to a lot of experimental music that really sort of blurs the boundary with like fine art and sound art. So having it be very open and fluid for people's, other sort of multimedia practices is important to me. But yeah, Pudding Style would be the resultant style of this club, which I am hoping, which I will, I'm like pushing it a little bit, but then I'm hoping it'll start rolling on its own,
That's awesome. I guess I've had a really good time with this interview. I think it might be time for us to play some music pretty soon.
Sure.
Although, there is one thing I did want to share. So basically, I'm sure most listeners don't know this, but I give somewhat of a questionnaire to my guests before they come on the show, to get a bit of background information. And I always ask, is there anything interesting or illuminating that you want to share? And you said TBD, which is a perfectly valid answer. Most people don't write anything. I give the option right now. But there was something that you wrote elsewhere in the what's the word I'm looking for? In the questionnaire I really liked, that I actually did want to share, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, I think you mentioned when when referring to making music, that you try to reserve judgment and have as few expectations as you can. And when I read that, I was like, oh, it's almost like you're just like, oh, how to be positive generally, right? Because it's funny, because I just saw that and immediately thought of how personally sometimes I'll, when I don't do that, I always get disappointed with stuff.
Yeah.
And then it gives a negative outlook. So I just wanted to say that you did have something very interesting and illuminating that you actually snuck into the
cool. Yeah.
Into the thing, yeah.
I'm pretty negative, I think, so contrary to that, but that's what I like aim for. It's like a goal, to always reserve judgment, but
I think there's something in there to me. I don't know.
Cool.
I read that and I read it again. I really liked it.
Amazing. Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And with that, let's see if you have any parting thoughts.
Not really.
Okay, great.
Hope the listeners enjoy the music.
You're listening to 8 Ball Radio. I'm your host, Boozy. I'm with OTTO right now. We're going to be starting up with some music in a little bit. Keep it locked.